Thanks, Kira, and good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. This is my first AGU meeting. And I'm going to start up front here with some assumptions that I'm preaching to the choir a little bit. That we already know that rivers are vital, complex, and in crisis. And that everybody who's here is invested in learning how we can better train the next generation of river scholars and stewards. And probably you're already thinking that field studies are a vital component to this process. And you may even have some appreciation that field studies and courses themselves are complex, with unique challenges related to time costs, interest, resources needed, and risk management that can put field courses themselves at risk or in crisis. So while they might be important, they are also challenging and in crisis themselves. And what I'd like to share this morning is about some partnerships related to building capacity for educators, students, and professionals to address these paired crises of rivers and field education. I'm going to talk about three different organizations, and I'm first going to talk about the National Science Foundation Research Coordination Network in Undergraduate Biology Education, the River Field Studies Network, which is a community of practice that's focused on connecting rivers, people, and science through immersive field education. And it focuses on building instructor capacity for field education and pedagogy, broadening engagement of different kinds of instructors and students into river field studies, promoting safety and well-being in the field through training and skills and building partnerships, and developing a library of open source, high quality resources that are available to all of us to lower the barrier of entry for folks that are thinking of creating that first river field class. The way that we deliver this programming is through the River Scholars Program. This is a 9-month-long program. It starts with online onboarding in the spring, leads into a summer in-person river rendezvous, which introduces participants to group facilitation and team building, practicing delivering some of the lessons from the library to think about what does it look like to deliver a good lesson in the field, place-based and community-engaged pedagogy philosophy, and also lesson ideation. So they start to brainstorm with each other what lessons would they like to create and leave to all of you. In the fall, they return to their home institutions. They flesh these lessons out into a lesson plan. They test this lesson on their home river with their home audience, students or colleagues, where they receive feedback and they review and revise these lessons. And in the winter, they publish them to our CUBE site and they present them to the network at our virtual winter gathering. We've had a number of cohorts in 2019. We started on the American River, 2021, the Rogue cohort, 2022, the James River cohort in Richmond, Virginia, 2023, the San Juan cohort, 2024, the Klamath River cohort. Most recently this summer, we had the Cheat River cohort in West Virginia. And last summer, we also offered for the first time a separate but complementary workshop focused only on safety and river safety skills. This included, in addition to swiftwater safety, first aid training, preventing harassment in the field training as well. And by and large, our participants feel like these are high value. The skills and knowledge they're exposed to is valuable, but perhaps even more importantly, the community building is something that we again see as very important to our participants. As I mentioned, they receive training and certifications in safety skills. They have created, in January, we'll have created 40 lessons that are available for anyone to use that range from geosciences to social sciences and ecology. These have already been viewed 25,000 times, downloaded 15,000 times. And they've used these lessons as building blocks to create at least 18 new field courses around the country just in the last 2 years. They've also leveraged their skills and knowledge to obtain $500,000 in external support for their pedagogy efforts at their home institutions. And they've built these courses into programs that support river field education, new certificates, new minors, up to 12 of them, more than 12 of them around the country. And so what this shows, I hope, is that by focusing on building instructor capacity, we can have cascading impacts across the country in terms of creating more opportunities to train the next generation of river scholars. But sometimes we also just need to know when it's not about training up, but just finding someone to help us out. And that's where Outdoor Experiential Education's program as partners to build better river field STEM. What they bring to the partnership: theory, experience, resources, and these domains which as STEM instructors, we typically do not have training in. Sometimes we might think we do, but we don't. And so rather than have to learn all of these things ourselves, by partnering, they can bring these things to the table to enhance our STEM classes. We recently did a study looking at the challenges associated with field courses, and we asked both STEM educators and outdoor educators what were the barriers and what they had to offer. And what we see here is that the kinds of things that the STEM educators here on the top identified as the barriers, or the things that they needed to deliver more effective field education, are often exactly the kinds of things that the outdoor experiential education partners on campuses felt that they had to offer. And so they're natural partners. And we've been working with our outdoor program at Virginia Commonwealth University for more than 10 years. It's been extremely rewarding. They've led to, helped us develop better courses, new certificate programs. It's been really rewarding. And just one example of how they have made our courses better. We recently did a study where we examined how the traditional outdoor experiential education practices and activities that we have inserted into our sort of flagship multi-week river STEM class, Footprints on the James, have enhanced our students' sense of belonging and teamwork. And what we see in a nutshell is overwhelmingly positive impacts of these kinds of practices on our STEM class. Both belonging and teamwork were felt were enhanced based on student self-assessment by each of these activities. And so this is one way that they can make not only new courses and bring safety to our classes through their background in risk management, but also actually make the student experience better. What's more, we don't think VCU is particularly unique. We think that the ingredients for the kind of outcomes that we've had exist at many different universities around the country. There are more than about 400 co-curricular outdoor programs at universities around the country, nearly 130 that offer academic degrees in these areas. And so building stronger river STEM might simply be help walking across campus and to build a relationship with your outdoor program. And in fact, I think this is probably one of the lowest hanging fruits for transforming field education across the country. But what about that last step from student into professional? This is something the River Management Society, a nonprofit focused on professionals who study, protect, and manage North American rivers, thought about 10 years ago, and they came up with the idea of the River Studies and Leadership Certificate, which they implement in collaboration with schools around the country. This is an academic program which has course requirements. 4 courses are at the core: GIS course, a river science class, a river policy class, a swiftwater safety field training class. Then the students specialize in an area of emphasis: science, policy, or recreation, take 2 more classes in that area. And then they do an in-the-field professional experience, and they have to share that professional experience either in writing or through presentation at the National Symposium. And it can be done as a grad student or an undergraduate. And the courses themselves are distinct at each university. They just have to fit into these categories, and which courses qualify are part of the MOU. Currently, there are 17 institutions around the country that participate, and about 80 certificates have been awarded. And the key thing here is that because the River Management Society members are, by and large, professionals out there working on rivers as land managers, river managers, for federal agencies, state agencies, for restoration companies, and so forth. These are essentially the people who would be hiring our students. They're not necessarily academics. And so this has helped create a pathway to careers for students that have recently finished their undergraduate degree, truly creating the next generation of river scholars and stewards. While each of these programs has something unique to offer in and of themselves, it's interesting to look at their interactions. For example, we've discovered that nearly 85% of the river certificate programs around the country are actually led by alumni of the River Field Studies Network Scholar Program. And each year, a couple of new programs are created by our alumni. And so this is a really neat synergy. And we see that when we look at the growth of certificates being awarded, it's coincident with the formation of the River Field Studies Network. Another cool example, just as an anecdote, when these elements come together, was a field course that we developed this past spring on the Buffalo River in Arkansas, the first national river. This was a hybrid, collaborative, distributed online seminar field course. 3 universities, Oklahoma, Virginia, Tennessee, came together initially online for shared speakers and lessons. They met together in northern Arkansas over their shared spring breaks for a multi-day hiking and canoe camping trip. They collected data based on projects that they had developed themselves. They collected it together when we were on our spring break, and then when they went home, they continued to collect data on rivers in their regions. Then they created a collaborative poster online, which they shared at local, regional, and even national meetings. And this was great because it brought together alumni from the river program, 3 of them who essentially created their first river field course through this activity, professionals from the Midwestern and Southeastern chapters of the River Management Society who sat around the campfire with the students and talked about the career choices that they made to become river professionals. And the whole thing was facilitated by the outdoor program at the University of Arkansas. So in addition to these outcomes of student research, a couple of popular articles were written. One of our instructors received a state-level teaching award, and importantly, the students felt that they were more motivated to serve as stewards to our river resources. So how do we keep this thing going? I think there's a lot there, and we should save that for the discussion. But if this kind of thing seems interesting to you, I encourage you to reach out to us. We are recruiting now for the 2026 River Field Scholars Program and plan to have another river safety workshop in Richmond in August. Thank you very much for your attention.